Men get to have standards too. Women love to have standards for men they date, like has a good career, tall, no substance abuse or addiction problems, etc. That seems accepted. But men get to have their standards too. They also don't have to be logical to women. So if a man has standards like thin, not promiscuous, and childless, he is not a bad person, a jerk, or a loser. He just has standards. Just like you. You don't get to shame men for having standards. I like the word preferences over standards. Because it doesn't imply that what you want is better, just what you like. But of course you can have preferences. We do. My standard were fit, didn't want children and must have a career, not just a job, and can 100% support yourself. Wife is a civil engineer, she hits all the points. I don't have a double standard. I fit those points as well. Also, men don't have to accept or reciprocate when a girl tells them they have a crush on them. Had a girl tell her friends that she liked me, so they got invested. When she told me and then asked me out, I was nice and said no and damn near got crucified by her and her friends. I'm not picky when it comes to women. Be nice and don't fucking cheat. Period. I dated a girl for a couple of years, she seriously looked at me and said, "Why haven't you asked me to marry you?" The entire 2 years we dated she was unemployed and looking for a job. I paid for everything. I didn't even break eye contact and said, "I have standards too, you know. I want both of us to be working towards a better life, not just me, I literally cannot afford to take care of us both." I think everyone can have their standards/preferences, but you don't have to be an asshole about it. If someone starts flirting with you that doesn't meet your standards, just don't engage with them instead of telling them to change. I like a tall man, but I've never told a man I won't date him because he's too short. I will just politely say I'm not interested. This can go both ways, but I often see a lot of men on the internet especially demanding things from women when they don't have much to offer themselves. Sure, it's great that maybe you prefer Instagram models, but a lot of guys should understand that it takes a lot of money to look perfect 24/7. Or judging a woman for having a kid when you have 5 other kids by 5 different baby mamas. To me that's just baffling. You can have your preference, but just don't engage with these people, then you don't have to put them down, especially when you are guilty of the same thing. A golden rule I have for standards when it comes to dating is I have to meet those standards myself. I have a car, a decent job, and take care of my body/appearance. As long as I maintain those things I care about, I don't find it unreasonable to want the same out of someone to date them. It appalls me when people try to give guys flack and call them bigots for not being into a trans woman. Like, what in the fuck, how is this even a thing? Of course men have standards, don't get why this is a topic. Men absolutely get to have standards. Mine are pretty simple. Don't be morbidly obese, or have a bad attitude. Personally, I'd only want to be with someone who has standards. If a man or woman doesn't, that has to lead to some seriously unhealthy dynamics. Not to mention, a blow to my own ego knowing they'd get with just anyone. The thing is, men's standards won't be heard as much since women don't usually ask men out. I mean, I definitely have preferences that people might find insulting or whatever, but I don't care. But most women won't ever know. Don't men only get shamed for having standards when they shame other people for not fitting the standards? In my personal experience, no one cares if a man has a standard. But people do. You have a problem when men have a standard of not liking women who are larger, for example, but then proceed to ridicule women who don't fit the standard. Not an unpopular opinion. This is the polar opposite of an unpopular opinion, but sure, that's not a problem. The problem is applying the same standards to yourself that you apply to others. For example, if you want a woman with a low body count, you yourself should also have a low body count. It's wrong expecting a woman to have only been with one man if you yourself have been with more than one woman. You'd also be an asshole and a hypocrite for saying no fat chicks if you yourself is fat. I don't believe I get to have standards. Because I reach no ones. Men do have their standards, and if they were good at being a man, they just keep them private and only ask out a woman that meets said standards. We don't need to announce what we want to the world. Literally, who said we couldn't? Men can have standards, yes, but what they don't get to do is have these unrealistically high standards when they bring very little to the table. This is obviously not the case all of the time, but if you look at incels specifically, they only ever focus on these supermodel women, but won't even look at a woman who's closer to their level, but still at a higher level than them, and is actually interested in them, because they don't think these women have value. And then they whine and at times get violent because no one will give me a chance. Everyone is allowed to have standards, but you absolutely do not have the right to put someone down because you don't think they meet those standards, and in my experience, that's where the outrage comes from. Some men feel the need to try and completely tear you down because they don't think you're attractive. It's 100% okay to not find someone attractive, but it's 100% not okay to be a dick about it. I have lifestyle standards for them, but as far as physical attraction goes upon first meeting them, just don't be fat and have good hygiene. The internet isn't real life, you know. I've only seen people shame men for having standards on the internet. And if you go to other parts of the internet, you'll see people shaming women for having standards. In real life, barely anybody shames anybody for having standards, unless they are ridiculously high.